Alright boys, welcome back to another tier list. Today I'm going to be tiering every competitive item in Pokemon, specifically pertaining to Draft League. We got a lot of items and we are definitely not rating every single one of these items. Like, all the resist berries are all split up. They all do functionally the same thing, and I think it's kind of silly to rank them any higher or lower than each other. Yeah, they're for different types, but their viability is based on the offensive type that you are facing. So I think it's just like functionality wise, how good is this item, if that makes any sense. So I think I'm just gonna kind of group them all together, because sitting here and ranking them all would not only take a while, but I think it's also just kind of goofy. So let's go ahead. I want to get my juice take out of the way early. My potential juice take, I think this item right here, the Life Orb, is a C tier item. This item, you almost never have reason to run this over something like if you're a guard chomp, you want to run Soft Sand or Dragon Fang or those type of, the plates, those type of items, because Life Orb, it's just not worth the extra damage output to take 10% of your health at the end of every turn. There are very niche situations in which I think Life Orb is a very good item, like a Pokemon that outspeeds literally everything and will never take a hit. Your opponent has absolutely no priority, or if you need very specific damage rolls where Life Orb does beat out Expert Belt, Soft Sand, etc., then I can see Life Orb being ran. But in almost any other situation, you would never catch me running Life Orb, other than like Regenerator Mons, potentially Sheer Force Mons, and Magic Guard Pokemon. That's why it's C, not D. I think there's almost never a reason to run Life Orb. I think it's a very bad item. And then there's two items that I think are undebatably S tier. The first one's going to be Heavy Duty Boots. I mean, you invalidate one of the biggest part of singles and hazards with an item, and they are one of the most common items in the game, if not the most common item currently. And then the second S tier item is Leftovers. To nobody's surprise, these two items are easily the most ran items in singles. Leftovers gives Pokemon longevity that otherwise don't have it. Boots are broken. I don't think there's really any debating that these are the best items in singles, at least that I can think of off the top of my head. We're gonna bounce around a little bit. I think much like how I'm gonna group the berries together and just kind of put one berry up there, I'm gonna do the same with stuff like Never Melt Ice / Soft Sand. They're the same item. They're just the same item. It's just different types. I think they're all really good. They're all gonna go in B tier. This is gonna be the same for plates as well. The held items that boost a specific type by 1.2 times, I think they're B tier. I think they have a lot of usability. They're very, very good. Here, we've defined our tiers now. I think it's important to define your tiers. That way, you're not like, Life Orb in C after you just said how bad it was, and these items just a tier above it. Yeah, I think they're still not A tier because they're not great. You're not going to run them every single matchup, but you do have a lot of great usability. I might change my mind, to be honest. They might be A tier. You still have a lot of great usability. They change a lot of calcs in your favor a lot of times, and a lot of moves are spammable into certain teams. Like, you might face a team that doesn't have a flying resist, and I don't know why I said flying like that, and you might want to run Brave Bird, Sharp Beak, Galarian, Zapdos, and it doesn't have any switch-ins. But the next week you're probably not going to want to do that because they do have adequate flying resist. So they're good items. They have their uses for sure. They're almost great, if not great. I'm going to circle back and I'm going to put them in great probably in a little bit when I convince myself, but they're A/B right now. And we're gonna go ahead and rank the super berries. I don't know, man. Which one should I pick? Culver. I like Culver. It looks cool. We're gonna put the super berries in A. I think super berries are so good. You use them in a lot of matchups. If you're a defensive player, you're not playing HO. Even if you are playing HO, to be honest, you could take a hit and revenge something with a bait lure Pokemon. These berries are very, very good. They're borderline S tier, to be honest. They're so good, and you can run them in a lot of matchups, man. I'll be honest. There's a lot of different matchups that it's like, hey, if I throw a Colbur Berry on my Psychic type, then I'll eat the knockoff, and then I'll be able to revenge the fighting type with Psychic. Pretty cool stuff like that. I think they're definitely A tier, debatably S tier. Well, like I said, we're going to circle back on all this stuff, man, because I actually have no idea where I stand. It was literally these three items that I knew going into this where I stood. We've got some weird ones now. We're going to do like Absorb Bulb and Cell Battery in niche because they're bringable, but you're not really going to see them a whole lot. They don't have a whole lot of usability. If you don't know what Absorb Bulb does, let me just fact check myself really quick. Absorb Bulb raises your special attack by 1 stage if you're hit by a water type move, and Cell Battery does the same for attack if you're hit by an electric type move. They don't have to be Pokemon that are weak to them or anything like that, so that's why I think they're niche. And you know what, I'll even add a tier below right now. We're going to add an unusable tier. Ones that shouldn't be allowed or are actually not usable because they're bad. Because I don't think these are bad. I don't think these are unusable. I think there's very specific matchups where you could use these, and it'd be really cool to use these. Like, maybe you switch in your electric resist. You don't have like a Volt Absorb Pokemon. You switch in your electric resist on a Volt switch, and you're faster than everything, and you get the +1 attack, and you just sweep the game from there. Like, there are niche situations where I could see these used, but it's not going to be every game. It's not going to be every season, to be completely honest. Oh, and I guess Snowball goes with them, huh? Destiny Knot, that's unusable. Oranberry, unusable. I'm gonna put Rusted Sword and Rusted Shield in unusable, because Zacian and Zamazinta aren't really allowed. I'm also going to put Focus Band in unusable. Do not use Focus Band. You have Focus Sash right here. So these are just Dialga and Palkia items. So we're going to throw those in useless. Binding Band and Grip Claw. So I'm going to throw these in niche because these are definitely not unusable items. I've seen them used and they've been used pretty well in the past for things like even like Heatran and you know, I saw Cerulege in my community league actually use Binding Band. If you don't know what they do, Binding Band makes the trap damage from like Fire Spin and Whirlpool. Instead of 1/8, it does 1/6 at the end of every turn. And Grip Claw makes it last longer, so it lasts 7 turns, I think. Let me double check. They always last 7 turns instead of having the range, I guess, is the idea behind this Grip Claw. So they're usable. I don't think they're bad. I think they could make sense. Like if you want to trap a Pokemon, you want to waste its recovers, like let's say you have a Heatran, you want to trap Toxapex and waste its recovers because there's only 8 PP this generation, this would be a good way to do that, I guess. So definitely not unusable. We're gonna do another forfeit here where we have the weather items. It's hard to put these in good because they are good for the Pokemon that they're for, but they are not used on that many Pokemon. But you could be like a Damp Rock Rain Dance Pokemon. So I'm almost wanting to put these good, but because of how few Pokemon actually utilize these items, I'm just gonna put them in usable. These items all do the same thing. That's why I'm not putting like all of the super berries and plates and whatever. Light Ball, niche. You could do Fling and get paralysis. Shout out to Owen for doing that in, I believe, a finals of NCP. Eviolite, Eviolite's a tough one to rank because it's the same thing as the rocks, where it's like there's only certain Pokemon that can use them, but whenever it uses them, it's very, very good. So I think because of that, I'm just gonna keep it in usable because it's not viable for every single Pokemon. There's like a short list of Pokemon that are usable that use the Eviolite, especially it's even smaller in Paltea decks. So I'm gonna throw it in usable. We're gonna put this sucker, we're close to great, good if not great. That item's pretty damn great, man. There's a lot of Pokemon that their coverage, like I don't know off the top of my head, Greninja, yeah, there's a good one that just hit everything. They have coverage for everything. You're able to hit every single Pokemon, and Expert Belt is able to boost all of those types the same amount that the held items like Never Melt, Soft Sand are able to boost. Expert Belt does the same thing, but just it covers a wider variety, especially in something like Draft League, where most of the time you're gonna have super effective coverage for most things. It might apply to less Pokemon than something like Never Melt Ice, because like you can slap a Never Melt Ice on Weavile, and whether or not the opponents resist this, you're gonna do more damage. Expert Belt is good because of things like Greninja and Pokemon that can abuse that have really good coverage, and I think there's enough Pokemon for me to put that in A tier over the held items. I don't know, maybe I put the held items A because those help a lot of calcs. We're gonna put the held items and the plates in A, I think. Air Balloon is usable. I don't think it's niche. I think it's better than niche. There are definitely a lot of applications for this. Like if you think your opponent is going to run Earthquake, Scale Shot, Garchomp, you put an Air Balloon on your Fairy type, and now you wall Garchomp until your Air Balloon pops. So apparently this isn't even usable. These instants aren't even usable in Paldea. This one's Blunder Policy because it's alphabetical is what I'm gonna say. Blunder Policy, I'm gonna say niche. I would say usable, but I haven't seen enough application, and you're also relying on a chance. It's not even like a guarantee that it pops. I might regret that. It might be usable. It's not a bad item. I think it's the best item in niche for sure. At least so far, I think it's the best item in niche. I don't think it's even close. It has the most usability out of this stuff because you could run things like there's inaccurate moves that a lot of Pokemon get that you can just slap on to try to activate the Blunder Policy. However, it's still a % chance that it does not proc at all. So you could just have a useless item slot. So because of that, we're going to stuff it in niche. And then we'll go with Weakness Policy, which is a good item, I think. I think we got our first good item Oh, but it's so good though. It might be great. Yeah, we're putting it in great. I'm so sorry about this good tier. Weakness policy is very abusable on very bulky Pokemon. Like I've seen Ting Lu with weakness policy recently. I've seen Dragonite with weakness policy. Just bulky Pokemon that don't have bad offensive stats can really abuse weakness policy, and I love it. Ring Target is another. I'm gonna put Ring Target usable. I don't think Ring Target is niche. It is kind of niche though, isn't it? I guess by definition Ring Target is niche, but it's probably the best item in niche. It's probably better than Plunder policy, because there could be games where you have the terrible Regieleki that I was talking about the other day, and the only way to beat it is this ground type that switches in only on you, your Regieleki, and a Pokemon that has Trick. You just trick a Ring Target on there and you call it a day. Like, there are cool situations like that where Ring Target can work and can win you the game. However, it is by definition niche because it's not going to come even every season. Is this a Spearberry? A Spearberry? Don't use a Spearberry. Here we go. This is an item. I was looking for an item that I could stuff in good. I think Punching Glove is good. It's kind of niche, but it's good in the sense that there are a lot more punching moves than people actually think. I think things like Poison Jab even count, and obviously Surging Strike and Wicked Blow on Urshifu. There's like Mach Punch. It boosts all of those items and gives you a Protective Pads boost in the same breath. So I think because of that, Punching Glove is really, really good and very usable and abusable by Pokemon that have certain coverage. It is only 1.1 times power. It's still a good item. It's definitely not only usable. I think if it was 1.2, it might actually be great, ironically enough. Rocky Helmet, that's a great item. That's an item you're going to run several times throughout the season. You punish physical attackers, you punish U-turners. I think Rocky Helmet is great. I don't think there's really any debate about that. Adrenaline Orb is niche. You could use it like me. If a Pokemon intimidates you, you could have like a Swords Dance Sweeper potentially at +1/+1 that wins the game, like Chi-Pow against Joey Pokegame, for instance. Protective Pads, I would say, is usable. I think there's specific matchups where it will come into play, but I think we do have to just strictly put it a tier below Punching Glove. But I don't think it's good because it takes up an item slot that you probably don't want to take up otherwise, and it's just so you don't get stacked by the Zapdos or something. Which is still, it's good in its own right. It is good in its own right, isn't it? Alright, that's a good item. Sticky Barb, niche, you could trick some damage. Black Sludge, it's hard to put Black Sludge S tier with leftovers because these are two different items. I'm going to put Black Sludge great. You heal your poisons and you can potentially get damage if something tricks you. It's just, it's a poison only leftovers, and that's why it's a tier below. Ability Shield is super niche, I feel like. I've never seen it used in Draft League specifically. There are situations where it could be used, it's not unusable. Maybe you're scared of skill swap. The only way you lose the game is if your Magikarp Pokemon gets skill swapped. Ability Shield makes sense then. Safety Goggles, that's a good item. It has its uses. It's kind of niche, but just denying Spore is so valuable that I don't think I can just put it usable. We're gonna start banging these out real quick. Covert Cloak might be an S tier item, dude. This stops like your setup sweepers. Like if you're a Calm Mind, Iron Defense, Slowbro, you can't get poisoned based off of like Sludge Bomb. It lets you switch in things to Sludge Bomb and not get poisoned. I don't know why I'm tunneling on Sludge Bomb. You guys get what I'm saying. Secondary effects are massive in Draft League, and eliminating those are huge. That is I'm so close to, I'm putting it S tier. You know what? Another item I'm gonna put S tier, it's got to be the Choice Scarf. While I do think the Choice Scarf is a little overrated right now, because a lot of people are like, you need a Scarfer, a good Scarfer, which by the way doesn't make sense. It's a whole side tangent, but that doesn't make sense because any Pokemon with like 70, 80 plus speed is a usable Scarfer. Stop saying I need a Scarfer on my team. You have usable Scarfers. I promise you, you can run Scarf in this matchup. You got to think a little bit outside the box. That's the whole point of Draft League. Anyway, I digress. Scarf is still an S tier item because it is so good. I'm a little bit biased because it's probably my favorite item in the game, at least that we've tiered so far, maybe second to leftovers, but it's a really good item. Just getting that 1.5 times speed boost is just so absurd. It helps certain Pokemon like Mamoswine be faster than what it needs to, which Mamoswine is Trailblaze now, so that's not the best example, but you get what I'm saying. And then in the same breath, we're also going to put Band and Specs, but we're going to put those in A because I think they're slightly worse than Scarf because I think they have a little bit less usability. I still think they're very good items. They are probably the best items in Great, but I do like Choice Scarf a little bit better in Draft League. Next up, we're going to do Booster, and Booster is tough because Booster is a great item. It might even be an S tier item, but it's only usable by 15 Pokemon or 16 Pokemon, whatever the case is. I forget the actual number. So because of that, I'm going to put it good, but on the Pokemon that it is usable on, it is amazing. It's a fantastic item. Like, it is probably, I'd probably put it great if more Pokemon could use it. Maybe I just put it great. I think I convinced myself. It is a great item. It is so good on your like Iron Jugulus, your Iron Hands, your Iron Valiant. I don't know why I didn't say a single past Pokemon. It's so good on those Pokemon. It's unbelievably good to the point that I have to put it great. We've got another Forfer. We've got the seeds. They're all usable. They have their specific uses. They're good for like unburdened Pokemon. They're good for Sneasler, Hawlucha, but generally speaking, most teams aren't going to have a terrain center, and because of that, you're not really going to see these used all of that often. There could be some cool cases where you have like, I know Amel used a Misty Surge. I think he was Misty Surge Psychic Seed, or not Misty Surge or Psychic Seed, Misty Surge whatever the seed is called, Quaquaval, and that was pretty cool. But more times than not, you're not going to use them very often, so they're not good. I can't justify putting them good. Eject Pack, now that is a good item. Being able to get priority on Pokemon that otherwise wouldn't have it because they have a move to lower a stat, like Close Combat on Great Tusk is so usable, so unbelievably good. I'm very tempted to put this item great. Eject Button is usable. It's definitely worse than Eject Pack. It's way more niche than Eject Pack, but I don't think it's actually niche. I do think there are uses for it. Like you could stop a Volt Switch if you didn't know. If you have an Eject button, you get Volt Switched on, or you turned on, or Flip turned on, I guess now. You actually are the one who gets to switch out, not the opponent, and the opponent stays in. So there have been some cool things that I've seen ran. I actually ran that with a Magnezone. Not like on the Magnezone, but in conjunction with a Magnezone back in like Gen 7 to trap a Scizor with HP Fire. It happened way long ago, and I haven't ran it since, I don't think, so maybe it's niche, but we'll leave it here. Floatstone is niche. It's actually not useless. On Pokemon like Quagsire and Gastrodon, Floatstone is actually good because Pokemon that only get Grass Knot as grass coverage can't really damage those Pokemon. They're already kind of light, and Floatstone makes that damage from Grass Knot halved. Muscle Band. Alright, Muscle Band and Wise Glasses. I've seen a lot of people running these items recently, and I'm here to tell you that you really shouldn't be running them. They are niche at best. The 1.1 times boost, I know I gassed up Punching Glove. Punching Glove has a secondary effect as well to protect you from like static and stuff like that, so it definitely has a lot more usability than Muscle Band and Wise Glasses, in my opinion. I think these items are bad. I think you're always better off running like a specific type item to get the 1.2 times boost rather than the general 1.1 times boost, or you're just better off having leftovers or boots on your Pokemon. The 1.1 boost isn't big enough of a margin to only get that from the item. I understand that it's for everything. It is still just not good, and it doesn't really change calcs enough for me to care about that. These items are bad. I really recommend not running these unless there is like a very specific calc. Clear Amulet is a good item. Blocking stat drops is good. I mean, there's no debate about that. It can block Parting Shot. It can block Intimidate. I don't see any downside to running it really, so I don't see why it wouldn't be good. I actually think a lot of places have been banning it recently from what I've seen to like avoid cheese. So we'll put it in niche right now because not everywhere has banned it, but generally speaking, it's going to be actually unusable. Lagging Tail, that's a usable item. I'm pretty big on Lagging Tail. I think Trick Lagging Tail is such a good option. I've ran it several times this generation alone. I think Trick Pokemon, whatever Pokemon want to switch into them, being able to trick a Lagging Tail on them so you guarantee that Pokemon goes last is just incredibly valuable. Assault Vest, we might be talking top tier items here. In fact, we are talking top tier items. I want it to be known there is a distinct line between heavy duty boots and leftovers and the other S tier items. Assault Vest is still very good. Boosting that special defense by 1.5 times is amazing. A lot of Pokemon already run only 4 coverage moves regardless, so that's not too much of a boon. You're not getting like punished more times than not, but there are some cases where you do want like Stealth Rocks on a Pokemon you can't because you're running AV. But generally speaking, this Assault Vest, you're going to run it so many times during the season. It's just such a catch-all check to special attackers. It helps Pokemon like Iron Hands is a great example beat some special attackers when it really shouldn't. So I really like Assault Vest. I'm a massive fan of Assault Vest. This is paired with the berries that raise stats when you get so low. I think it'd be a crime to put any of them lower than usable. So I think the 2 defense ones are unusable. They're definitely not bad by any means. They might even be good items. I think the offensive ones have a little bit more usability than the defensive ones. And then Salic Berry is the best one. Just boosting speed in draft leagues, very, very good. It can allow your sweepers to potentially run the in-game. There are a lot more Pokemon that get Swords Dance than Dragon Dance, for instance. A lot more Pokemon that get Swords Dance than Agility, Bulk Up than Agility. The Landsap Berry, it gives a focus energy effect when at 1/4 max HP or less. That can't be any higher than niche. Not unusable, because I could see some usability in that. I mean, at that point, just run Scopelins, right? Now, actually, we're putting it unusable. Then we got the Key Berry and the Moringa Berry, which raise defense if Key Berry or special defense with Moringa Berry, I think is what it's called, Moringa Berry, when hit by a physical or special attack. These are niche. You're going to want different items in these slots. Usually, I could see some usability for these. Like, maybe you have a Pokemon that's like a switch into something, and you know it's not going to hit a super effective button, and the only way you win the game is if you switch in, you get that +1 split def or defense, and then you start setting up the other stat because you don't have a way to boost the other stat. It's like a very complicated way that I could see that being usable. And this one is like useless. This one's actually useless. Boulder's accuracy is 1.2 times when HP is 1/4 or less. That is just not, I don't see that being usable. We got the Widelands, wise boys. I almost want to put it niche, but it just is not niche. Like, it is usable. It's a usable item. You're almost, but it's like the same thing as like muscle. I'm gonna put it next to Muscle Band and Wide Glasses because I highly recommend against running the Widelands, because you're almost always gonna want to run an actual item in that slot and not just like an accuracy booster. Almost always, especially because most mons, like if you have Hurricane, you could just run Air Slash. But I do see the usability, so I almost want to put it usable. I see more usability for it than these two. We're gonna put it in usable. Oh, I got the claws switched up earlier. So this is the Grip Claw. This is the Razor Claw. This raises your crit chance by 1 stage. So this is just Scopelins. I think we also have Scopelins somewhere. Scopelins, I mean, it still goes in niche. It's in the right place. Certain Pokemon can abuse it, certain Pokemon can't really use it that well, and you're not really going to want to waste a slot on it. So Enigma Berry is an interesting one. I think it's niche. Restores 1/4 of your max HP after you're hit with a super effective move. That honestly is actually pretty bad. If you get hit with a super effective move, you're probably going below half, and you could just run Citrus to cover more bases. Never mind, that is not usable. And then Starf, I don't even know if this is actually allowed in leagues, raises a random stat by 2 when at 1/4 HP or less. It's not accuracy or evasion, at least not anymore, so I'll put it in niche because I guess that could be kind of cool. Still completely random and relying on luck though. Focus Sash. Now this is a borderline top tier item, but I'm gonna put it in great. I'm gonna put it like, I put it at the top of great because that's where it is. It's the first one. These are not ranked left to right, by the way. I'm putting it in great, not top tier, because hazards are so prominent this generation. There is so few removal. If your opponent prioritizes that, that could be bad. But like on lead Pokemon, it's so good, or on teams that don't have remove or don't have hazards. Against teams that don't have hazards, Focus Sash is very, very good. You have like a guarantee. You guarantee do not get swept in 6 turns, right? That's which is really cool. I'm a big fan of Sash Weavile lead to try to guarantee trade 1 for 1. I think it's great to trade 1 for 1. I think Sash is so good. It's a great item. Almost want to put it top tier, but I feel like if I put it top tier, I got to put like Rocky Helmet top tier, and I just don't think I can do that. Big Root, niche. It's usable. Not very often though. Not very often are you gonna want it over a different item. Light Clay is good. The verdict is in. Oh, not great. Light Clay is good. Making screens last so long, 8 turns is fantastic. I almost want to put it great because it's a really good item. Just those 3 extra turns can be the difference in winning and losing some games, from 5 to 8 turns on screens. And I am an avid screens user, so I'm gonna put it great. Actually, I think it's better than all of these items. Is it better than a Jetpack though? I don't know. We're putting a Jetpack in A. I've decided. Flame Orb is usable. It is not for every single Pokemon, but there are Pokemon that can abuse it. Conkeldurr or Saluna, very good Pokemon that can abuse it. But the same thing is like Eviolite, it makes those Pokemon great, but in other situations it's not really usable at all. Cherry Berry, that is, you're not gonna want the Cherry Berry. Lumberry, that is a good item. Lumberry removes 1 status condition, no matter the status condition, immediately. I think Lumberry is very good, and I've seen a lot of people running it this gen. I think it's been ran an adequate amount. I think people are going to agree with me that it is a good item. Lepa Berry is not usable in Draft League. If Revival Blessing is allowed for some reason, if you're in a league in 2023 allowing the uncompetitive move of Revival Blessing, then it is better. It is very good actually, because you can get a couple of Revival Blessings off, but most leagues that even do allow Revival Blessing ban Lepa Berry. So unusable. What is this? If hit by a physical move Attacker loses 1/8 of max HP. Why would you ever run Rocky Helmet? Robot Berry is the same thing but special. I feel like that is also not usable, man. We've got so many more items. Toxic Orb, it's niche, it's used for very few Pokemon. However, Trick Pokemon who are poison types could use it, Switcheroo Pokemon that are poison types could use it, and Gliscor could use it. So we'll stuck it in niche. Oh, Custap Berry, that bad boy is a great item. Custap Berry is really good, and I do think it is better than all of these items. Custap is underrated, man. I think it's so good being able to get the guaranteed priority. There are Endure Custap Pokemon strategies. There's sturdy Pokemon that can live with the Custap Berry. There are bulky Pokemon that can just abuse the Custap Berry. I'm a Custap Berry advocate. Terrain Extender, it's kind of niche. You're not really ever gonna want Terrain Extender. I mean, there could be situations where like Pincurchin or if Tapu Koko comes back, Terrain Extender immediately becomes a good item. But until then, I'm gonna put it in niche. We got Normal Gym, specifically Normal Gym. It's usable. Just be Silk Scarf. The only situation where it's gonna be niche actually. Just use Silk Scarf. The only situation where this is not just niche is like Fake Out Sneasler. That's like it. All right, this has been way too long, so I'm gonna go ahead and just bust out these last couple items. Pause. We've got Mirror Herb. Mirror Herb is a usable item. I don't think it's like it might be considered good because it stops counter sweep. Maybe it is good because it's definitely better than all of the items in usable. You know what? We'll put it in good. Loaded Dice, that is again a good item. A lot of things got like Icicle Spear, Scale Shot, Bullet Seed, and Loaded Dice can really make those sets go crazy, to be honest. This is Iron Ball. It's like Lagging Gale, but a little bit worse, but also it makes flying types grounded, so because of that, we'll put it in usable. We've got Mental Herb. Mental Herb is kind of niche, but if you need a lead Pokemon to guarantee get hazards up, because your opponent has 0 removal at all and you don't think they'll run boots, then it's a little bit better. But this generation, it's just the fact that everything can run heavy duty boots. You're really not having too many opportunities to really use this Mental Herb. Maybe like a lead Dragon Dance set to just completely break the opponent. Power Herb, same thing. It's usable, definitely usable, but super niche. There's not a lot of 2-turn attacks this generation. The only real use for this before was like Sky Drop or Sky Attack, Howlucha, and now it has different ways to use its Unburden, so it's almost unusable. But because there are moves that maybe you could use, like Fly on Dragonite for instance, with this if you're not a Terra Pokemon, it's definitely niche. And then White Herb. White Herb is usable. You're not going to use it for things like Intimidate anymore because you have Clear Amulet, so it's really only usable for like Shell Smash Sweepers, so maybe it's niche at this point. But because those Shell Smash Sweepers always run the herb, I think we're gonna leave it in C. We are almost done. Shell Bell, that's unusable. Don't use that over leftovers. That doesn't make sense. Throat Spray, that is a usable item. There are some cool things that you could do with it. Like before Wake got Flip Turn and Knockoff, I was an advocate of Throat Spray, Noble Roar, excuse me, or Snarl on that Walking Wake. So not Walking Wake. Throat Spray is cool. It's usable. Metronome got a lot worse once we found out the Showdown had it wrong all those years. Because of that, it's super niche. It definitely has its own uses. You're not really going to click the same move over and over and over and over and over. And maybe you will. Maybe there will be a matchup where you do that. But it's just so uncommon that I think it's going to be D tier. Oh, this is one that I wanted to talk about for a while. Utility Umbrella. That item's damn near unusable. I'll put it in niche, but I think it's the worst item in niche. It's such a cool item, and it had the ability to be so good, but it doesn't work as you think it would. Like, so I'm doing some calcs right now just to verify I'm not crazy. If, let's say I had Chi-Yu in a rain matchup, and I was like, Utility Umbrella, so my overheats go out from the umbrella and do normal damage in the rain, right? That would be cool. That would be a good item. It does not do that. It would then actually, I think it would make you take neutral damage from water moves instead of rain boosted. No, it doesn't even do that. I have no idea what Utility Umbrella's use actually is then. It doesn't do what you think it should, and because of that, it's niche. It's unusable. It's the worst item in the game, dude. Like, there's definitely use cases for it, but because I'm so angry that it doesn't work how it should, I'm putting it in F. Zoom Lens, that's a not, don't use that. Room Service. Room Service is really cool and an item I'm a fan of. We're gonna put it in niche because it does have some specific matchups. You're not gonna use it too often, but some base 80 speed Pokemon like Hoopa Unbound could definitely take advantage of Room Service. Red Card. Red Card is usable. That can stop sweeps. If you have it's something that I often forget in prep. If there's a Pokemon that if it ever gets set up and you lose the game, Red Card could be your get out of jail free card. Shed Shell. Shed Shell is usable. It's kind of niche by definition, but because it has such a big impact on the game if you are facing those trapping Pokemon, we're going to put it in usable. And then I think the last item that we have to rank is going to be the Citrus Berry. I'm gonna put citrus berry in usable. It's definitely not S tier. It's fine, you could use it. I guess also the super berries, I'm gonna put them in the same tier. They're fine, like they do have their uses for sure. There could be some calcs where you definitely need that 25% from the citrus berry, or even, you know, the 33% from the figgy. They're good, they give you HP back, they can help some calcs for sure, but they're definitely not better than this stuff. And more times than not, you're gonna, this generation without the super berry, I guess this generation and last generation, you're gonna want leftovers instead. This is a better picture here of all of our things. Here is all of our S through D, and then here's our unusable. The unusable doesn't really matter because most of them are genuinely unusable, other than like utility umbrella. But the rest of them, this is like the functioning tier list. If you guys want to do this yourself, let me know how you do. Check out the tier list down below. Let me know on my Discord server that you can also find in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and for now guys, this has been John Jr. signing off.